It was a regular sunny morning in the bustling village of Cambio. People moved about in the busy market square, haggling for the best deals on vegetables, spices, and meat. Among the crowd was Mama Yoba, the most popular cow meat seller in town. Her table was always busy. Everyone loved her fresh, juicy meat. "Mama Yoba, give me one big piece," shouted Chike, a taxi driver. "You get the best, my son," Mama Yoba replied with her famous smile, handing him a chunk of beef wrapped in a black nylon bag. Her table never ran out of meat, no matter how many people bought from her. Mama Yoba lived in a small compound on the edge of the village. Her next-door neighbor, Auntie Nkechi, was always curious about Mama Yoba's business. "How does she always have so much meat?" Nkechi wondered aloud one night. "She never has cows delivered to her house, yet vehicles will carry out meat to the market every market day." One evening, while sweeping her yard, Nkechi heard strange noises coming from Mama Yoba's backyard. It sounded like chanting and the low groans of an animal. Her curiosity got the better of her, and she peeped through a crack in the fence. What Nkechi saw made her heart pound. In the middle of the yard, Mama Yoba stood in front of a kneeling man. She was sprinkling powder over him, chanting strange words. Slowly, the man's body began to change, his hands turned into hooves, his skin darkened, and his face stretched into a cow's snout. In a matter of minutes, he had fully transformed into a cow. Nkechi gasped but quickly covered her mouth. She ran back inside her house, her mind racing. By dawn, Nkechi, 100% worried what people have been eating from Mama Yoba, went out for a rescue mission to serve everybody. Blow out the information. The entire neighborhood had heard the story. Nkechi told her cousin, who told her friend, who told the hairdresser at the salon. The news spread like wildfire. Some of the people who had bought cow meat from Mama Yoba became disturbed and afraid of their health. "She turns people into cows," shouted a man in the market. "I bought meat from her last week," cried another woman, dropping her shopping basket. A crowd gathered outside Mama Yoba's house, shouting and demanding answers. The angry crowd marched to Mama Yoba's house. They banged on the gate until she came out, looking confused. "What is the meaning of this?" she asked. "We know what you're doing," shouted Nkechi from the front of the crowd. "You're turning people into cows." Mama Yoba froze. Her eyes darted toward the backyard, where she had hidden the cow from the night before. The crowd noticed her hesitation. "Search the yard," someone yelled. Before she could stop them, people rushed into the backyard. There, tied to a tree, was the cow with a human-like sadness in its eyes. The city chief was called to the scene. He questioned Mama Yoba, who finally confessed. "Yes, it is true," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I only turned those who wronged me, thieves, liars, and those who brought harm to others. But I swear, I never killed anyone." The chief shook his head. "This is not your place to decide. You will face judgment." "You mean, you have been selling human meat for innocent people all these years?" asked the chief, with a surprised look on his face. The chief asked again, "When did you start this evil? Tell us now, or I will order all the boys here to pour their anger on you." Hesitated to give an answer, one of the boys shouted, "Sir, please, let us beat her first." Mama Yoba, seeing angry men and women ready to bring jungle justice upon her, putting her face to the ground, said, "Please, I started it since 6 years ago." The crowd erupted in shock. "So, you have been giving us the flesh of our fellow brother and sister to cook stew and soup with? Oh, evil woman!" An elderly man in the crowd shouted. "So my grandson that went missing 3 years ago without a trace, could have been eaten by me also without knowing," sat on the floor and wept seriously. Mama Yoba was taken away to face the elders, and one of the chiefs called his fellow chief to free the remaining cow in her compound tied. A phone call was made to one native doctor well known in the village. The native doctor advised the chief to pour the tied cow sands from the entrance to Mama Yoba's compound for 7 times. To everyone's shock, the cow slowly turned back into a man. He was weak and trembling, but alive. From that day, the people of Cambio stopped eating meat for weeks. They whispered about Mama Yoba's strange powers and wondered how many other cows had once been human. The city returned to normal over time, but Mama Yoba's story was never forgotten. People no longer buy meat from all the market. Majority of people shifted from meat to fish to be sure of what they are eating. The incident became a playful statement among people. Friends calls friends human eaters. The elders of Cambio gathered under the old baobab tree to decide Mama Yoba's fate. The crowd surrounded them, eager to hear the verdict. Mama Yoba knelt before the elders, her head bowed in shame. "Do you deny using dark powers to turn humans into cows?" asked Elder Ademu, the wisest among them. "I do not deny it," Mama Yoba replied softly. "But I only did it to those who brought harm to our people, thieves, swindlers, and wicked ones." The elders whispered among themselves. Finally, Elder Ademu raised his hand to quiet the crowd. "Your actions, though meant to punish evil, have caused great fear and distrust in our city," he said. "You have no right to take justice into your own hands. Therefore, you are banished from Cambio for 20 years. If you return before then, you will face harsher punishment." The crowd murmured in agreement, though some felt the punishment was too light. Mama Yoba bowed her head again. The next morning, Mama Yoba left Cambio with only a small bundle of clothes and a calabash of water. She walked toward the distant hills, unsure of where her journey would take her. As she passed through the market one last time, people avoided her gaze. Only a few, like Nkechi, watched her with a mix of fear and pity. "I hope she learns her lesson," Nkechi whispered to a friend. With Mama Yoba gone, life in Cambio began to change. The meat market grew quiet. No other seller could match the quality and taste of her meat, and many people stopped eating beef altogether. The man who had been turned back into a human struggled to adjust. Though grateful to be alive, he avoided the market, ashamed of his past. He had been a petty thief, caught by Mama Yoba's powers. The people of Cambio grew more cautious in their dealings, fearing they might be the next to suffer a strange fate. 20 years passed, and Cambio changed in many ways. The market grew bigger, the people wiser, and the city more peaceful. Mama Yoba's story remained a warning to all. Do not let anger or pride guide your actions, for they may lead you to places you cannot return from. One quiet morning, as the city buzzed with life, a figure appeared at the edge of the market. It was an older woman, her back slightly bent, but her presence unmistakable. Mama Yoba had returned. Some welcomed her cautiously, while others turned away. She had served her time and was ready to start anew. But this time, she vowed to live differently. And so, the story of Mama Yoba became not just a tale of fear but also one of redemption. Please, subscribe. Thanks.